This Conor McGregor downfall.
Is not even in the top 10 greatest UFC fighters of all time, but
What?
he is
Why
number
not?
1 as far as overall impact on the sport of mixed martial arts. He was the first fighter in history to hold 2 UFC championships in 2 different divisions. The top 7 most watched UFC fights of all time are his last 7 fights, and he is the undisputed, undefeated king of trash talk.
Who do you think would give you the hardest fight out of anybody?
Yeah, he can sell us all for sure.
Right here, the hardest hitting 145 pound, the real hardest hitting 145 are right here.
Who
This
the
guy
hell?
TKOs people. When I knock people out, they don't move. They're not. Who the is that guy?
That's a classic line.
If Conor McGregor walked away from the fight game at his peak, we would remember him as the ultimate rags to riches success story. An Irishman who took over the world with nothing but his fists, his words,
I
and
mean, he literally is
his
rag to
loyal partner
riches.
by his side. But he destroyed that. His overinflated ego, money over everything attitude, and addiction to all became a toxic recipe for disaster. This led to an endless cycle of shameful behavior, a string of humiliating
Yeah, Bruce got to him.
losses, and multiple allegations with one ending in a guilty verdict. Conor McGregor has truly lived up to his nickname, the Notorious, which means to be well known for something bad. Today we are going to deep dive into the rise, fall, and future of Conor McGregor, the man who seemingly lost the biggest fight of his life, the fight against himself. Becoming a world champion fighter was somewhat of a destiny for Conor McGregor, who grew up on the south side of Dublin, Ireland. Ireland has a rich history of fighters from the ancient Celts to modern-day boxing champions. However, the pursuit of being a world-class fighter requires relentless training and money. Teenage McGregor worked 9 to 5 as a plumbing apprentice, a job that he hated and took most of his time away from the gym training with John Kavanagh, until one day he decided to quit the job and pursue his dream full-time.
And pursue this dream.
Yeah, that's important move, risky move.
Becoming a world champion in mixed martial arts, and that's what I did. I drove home. When I got
And
home,
he
my
succeeded,
girlfriend
huh?
said, "How come you're not still at work?" And I said, "I'm never going to go back to that site another day in my life." And then all hell broke loose. But
This was a risky move, but his coaches and his family realized Conor was destined for greatness on February 17th, 2007, where at the age of 18, McGregor made his mixed martial arts debut in an amateur fight against Kieran Campbell. After destroying his opponent via TKO in the first round, he turned pro and was signed by the Irish Cage of Truth promotion. Conor was more motivated than ever, and nothing could distract him on this path to glory, besides one young woman named Dee Devlin, who would soon become the foundation he didn't realize he needed.
But we met at a friend's party like way back, and then the usual social media, a little bit of a like here and a like there, and then a message, and the new age way of
So she's still married to him now.
which social media at the Bevo.
Before the world was cheering Conor's name, before he was a multi-millionaire, Dee Devlin was doing everything she could to support his dream.
He's never gonna lose, you know, in my eyes anyway. Definitely not. Yeah. Conor go training up in Rathkill till about 10. When SPG was up in Rathkill, he used to go till about 10. We just drive home, listen to music, and Conor be saying, "Look, one day, yeah, one day, and here we are."
Her loyalty to him did not go unnoticed.
Yes,
He made it
bruh.
his mission to make sure she was taken care of.
that's a good look. My girlfriend has been there from the start. She's helped me throughout this career. If it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. So definitely I look to spoil her. She does not work anymore. I essentially hired her. That to me was a special thing to be able to do. My girlfriend worked very hard throughout the years, coming up and stuck by me when essentially I had absolutely nothing. I only had a dream that I was telling her. So for me to be able to take her out of work and give her everything she's ever wanted and take her to see travel the world with her, that fills me with pride, so it keeps me going.
With Dee by his side and a small circle of highly skilled coaches and trainers, he would go on a 8-fight winning streak from 2011 to 2012. Conor won the Cage Warriors featherweight and lightweight championships, making him a 2-division
Just
champion of the
knocked out,
promotion.
huh?
As you can imagine, Conor felt unstoppable.
No matter what people say, people can put me in a room, people could throw bricks at me and call me every name under the sun. I'd still walk out there thinking I'm the Don one, you know what I mean? Thinking I'm the number one. That's the way I just feel. I don't give a f about nothing else, you know what I mean?
However, Conor did not get the chance to defend his 2 titles because he just earned himself a contract with the #1 combat sports promotion in the world, the UFC, and it only took 1 minute and 7 seconds to defeat his first opponent, Marcus Brimage.
50 G's one. Oh, 60Z.
The meteoric
Okay.
rise of McGregor had officially begun. Fight fans all around the world were shocked with their first impression of the young scrapper, but they loved it, specifically the Irish UFC fans. Ireland was more than just Conor's birthplace, it was his identity, and he vowed to honor the Fighting Irish legacy. And president of the UFC, Dana White, had dollar signs in his eyes. He could see Conor's potential star power.
Kid is totally relaxed. He's a beast. I'm impressed. Dresses well. Handsome kid. Seems pretty smart.
Conor quickly started steamrolling through the featherweight division. His fight style at this point is what made him so lethal, and abandoning this would ultimately lead to his demise. Most people remember him for his lethal left-hand knockout power, but in the beginning, he relied on it less. His stance was wide and karate-like, complemented by unorthodox movement, constantly bouncing in and out of range, using lateral movements to create angles for his strikes. He remained light on his feet, which allowed him to quickly deliver spinning back kicks and front snap kicks to the body. As if that wasn't scary enough, he could read his opponents while remaining calm, seemingly unfazed while standing toe-to-toe with another
Yeah, the spinning back kick is lethal.
warrior. But that calm and collected confidence quickly turned into cockiness, specifically around the build-up for his 2014 fight against Dustin Poirier.
His weakness is obviously his chin. Don't get me wrong, I like the kid. He's a quiet little hillbilly from the back ass of nowhere. You know, I have nothing against the guy, you know what I mean? I'm sure he grew up in a circus or a fair, or, you know, he's a nice little kid. Cletus, or, you know, his cousin's probably named Cletus or something. He's a nice kid. His chin is going to be cracked, and it's going to be cracked.
And he absolutely destroyed him, bro.
Every single one of my way is in trouble here. So this is just the next step. Dustin's little pea head is going to get removed. It's going to get put into my collection, and I'm going to get on my way to the gold.
The thing that made Conor's trash talk so special was that he backed it up. He invented the Mystic Mac prediction, where he would describe the outcome before each match. He told the world that Chad Mendes was too small, and that he would have a few good scrambles, but then Conor would pick him apart, and ultimately become the interim featherweight champion. And he did just that. He also received $3,285,000 for his win over Mendes, solidifying a true rags to riches story.
When you signed to fight me, it's a
It's
celebration.
an
You
amount
ring
money.
back home, you ring your wife. Baby, we done it. We're rich, baby. Conor McGregor made us rich. Break out the red panties. We're rich, baby. So don't say you would not take that fight, because you would take that fight like everyone else up here would take the fight against me if it was offered, regardless of belts or any of that shit. I'm the money fighting the male shit at all weight divisions, so fuck everybody else up here.
But even though the belt was wrapped around his waist, it had an asterisk next to it, as he was technically the interim champ. So his real, undisputed chance at glory would be against Jose Aldo. The UFC 194 press conference was held in Ireland, where not a single person was rooting for Jose.
When I got here, it was rainy, but I brought the sun with me. I'm the king, I'm the king.
Yeah, this part was actually devastating, bro.
Aldo was clearly fighting a different beast. He had never felt this kind of pressure. Conor got into Aldo's head so badly before the fight that he was able to perfectly predict how he would finish Jose.
I think the right hand could be, if you look at I felt when we stared down, I felt his right
What
hand
is this in copy,
was
boys?
twitching a little bit, but it was a subtle tell for me. He is ready to unload that right hand, but I feel that could be a downfall for him if he lets that right hand go. I will not be there.
Conor practiced his step-back left-hand counterpunch to Jose Aldo's right hand, and that's exactly what happened in the real fight. In just 13 seconds, Jose threw a right, McGregor stepped back and countered with his left, and knocked out Jose Aldo, officially making him
So
the
bad.
UFC featherweight champion. The craziest part about this win is that Jose Aldo was undefeated for nearly 7 years straight at this point, successfully defending his title 9 times, only to be made looking like an amateur against McGregor. Conor earned the respect of MMA fans. For those that thought he was all talk, his
Yeah,
winning
what happened to Aldo in that fight?
against Aldo made it difficult for anyone to argue against him being a world-class fighter. The fact that he was actually lethal, combined with his electricity on the microphone, brought millions of new UFC fans in. His fight against Mendes and Aldo each secured over 1 million pay-per-view buys, earning the UFC about $60 million per fight. But even though he was praised as unstoppable by his fans, some top fighters saw him as a clown, undeserving of the hype.
How do you feel about it? Yeah, Conor McGregor, you're taking everything I work for. I'm gonna fight you. You know what's the real fight? What's the real money fight? It's me.
Many fans reminisce on Conor's beef with Nate Diaz as peak entertainment, both inside the octagon and out. Their trash talk moments were iconic due to Nate's reputation as a brute street fighter holding on to his last few brain cells, and Conor firing off razor-sharp, witty clapbacks.
To talk about money, because we are the business network, and the business of
Yeah, Ned doesn't want trash talk.
all
I'll
that
take
sort of
over
stuff.
from here, Nate. You can bounce. take a coffee break, Nate. And by coffee break, I mean bring me my
Oh,
coffee.
No. They want you to give us a quick count to 10, both of you gentlemen, if you don't mind, just if you wouldn't mind counting to 10.
Nate can only
Why count to 10? What?
count to 5. Okay.
Nate was immune to Conor's mind games, mostly because he didn't understand them, and that showed in their battle at UFC 196, where the two put on an absolute brawl before Diaz shocked the world, submitting Conor with a rear naked choke and bringing his momentum to a screeching halt. UFC 196 was the most successful pay-per-view in promotional history.
Yeah, Ned has a lot of jiu-jitsu
At that
experience.
point, securing 1.32 million buys, which meant that Conor had helped build the UFC to its highest level only to lose at the top of the mountain. But Conor was the UFC's golden boy, and the the promotion seemed to make business decisions that were in his best interest. Within 2 days of losing, the rematch was set up, and 6 months later, McGregor would get a chance to re-establish himself as the unstoppable Irish beast.
Yeah, this fight is actually insane though. All packed rounds.
Crackhead ass. You'll do nothing. You'll do nothing. Shut your mouth, you'll do nothing. You'll do f***ing nothing. Not one of you will do nothing.
Conor, being the underdog, built more hype than ever seen before in the UFC. Droves of new fight fans started pouring in, and the event broke the record they just set, making UFC 202 the highest selling pay-per-view with 1.65 million buys. It is still the second highest selling event they
Yeah, it's actually entertaining to watch.
The fight was a vicious blow-for-blow bloodbath. Conor still had never been knocked down in his entire career, proving that he didn't just deliver damage, he could take it too. The fight came down to a judge's decision, and many still debate that Nate actually won, but Conor was awarded the victory, successfully redeeming himself at the peak of the UFC mountain.
Surprise, surprise, motherfucker! The king is back!
Conor had even more negotiating power. The UFC was at his fingertips. Instead of going back down to featherweight to defend his belt, he demanded a title shot against Eddie Alvarez in the lightweight division, where a win would make him the first fighter in history to hold 2 championship belts at the same time. The fight was made quickly, scheduled less than 3 months after his win over Diaz, again proving the UFC was prioritizing his interests. And during the build-up for this fight, Eddie made a crucial mistake, trying to go back and forth with Conor on the mic.
I feel Eddie. I've nothing against careful. Be careful. I've nothing against Edward. Oh what? Careful. What you gonna do? You gonna do something over there? Yeah, shut your mouth. I run New York. I run this whole. And please get back with this. I'm gonna carry you. Take everything inside 1 round. His question is, why you talking? That's his question. Why the f*** you talking? Say it like it is. You're blessed. You're blessed that I chose you. You're blessed that I chose to whoop your ass next.
No, I came for an apology from him. I want an apology for saying my wife and kids.
Suck these big artists.
This was trash-talking Conor at his peak. Funny, exciting, unpredictable, and still capable of backing up his words.
It is so massive after all.
Don't give up what Eddie says. The Irish are back. We've taken back control of New York City. I run New York City. I'm a fucking pimp. Rocking Gucci Mint. And without me, this whole
They practically sold out Madison Square Garden just to do the weigh-in. The magnitude of Conor McGregor's fan base was unprecedented, and surely anyone else would implode with nervousness. But on the historic night of UFC 205, Conor looked as relaxed and focused as ever, knocking down Eddie 3 times in the first round, and then ultimately getting the TKO finish in round 2 to become the first champ in UFC history.
I've spent a lot of time, Joe, slaying everybody in the company. Backstage, I'm starting fights off everybody. I've ridiculed everyone on the roster. I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double tap does what the he wants. That's what I dreamed into reality. Oh, that looks good.
Yeah, where to get all the jokes, bro.
This moment, raising
He could be a comedian for
2
sure.
belts, was without question the peak of Conor McGregor. Sure, he made enemies with his relentless trash talk, cocky demeanor, and favoritism within the UFC, but his impact on mixed martial arts positively affected everyone. More exposure, more fans pouring in, which led to more money and more business opportunities. Some loved him, some loved to hate him, but you had to respect him. But that respect was about to slowly diminish, leading to the demise of one of the most electrifying entertainers in sports history. For the first time in his career,
Here comes the Khabib.
McGregor started to slow down, and it made sense. He took no breaks on his ascent to the top, and he was expecting a baby with his unwavering girlfriend Dee. But since he refused to defend the featherweight belt that he won back in 2015, he was forced to vacate his title, ending his time as the 2-division champion. His agent said, no matter what happens, nobody will ever be able to take those belts away from him. Nobody has beat him for those belts. So the way I look at it is, whatever business decision Conor decides to make, it's a smart one. It became abundantly clear that smart business decisions were Conor's top priority. No true champion would just let their title be stripped from him.
But he already made money,
But
so
Conor was made an offer he simply could
who
not
cares?
refuse. An exhibition fight
Yeah,
against
this
the
one
undefeated
too.
boxing world champion Floyd Mayweather. One singular bout that was set to make him more money than his entire UFC career combined. From the very beginning, real
Yeah, it's like 100 million or
fight
something.
fans looked at the McGregor vs. Mayweather bout as a cash grab. Floyd was a retired 40-year-old and Conor was not a boxer. It was
Yeah,
a
anyone would have taken the
win-win
fight.
situation for McGregor. Either he knocks out Floyd and gives the undefeated legend his first loss, or Conor loses and everyone says, yeah, well, he's not a boxer. The build-up was one of the most over-the-top and chaotic promotional tours in combat sports history, with 4 different massive press conferences where the two did these long, drawn-out speeches and stood toe-to-toe, seemingly pretending to hate each other. It felt way less genuine and personal than any beef we have seen Conor in before. It was mildly entertaining, but mostly awkward and exhaustive.
50 strippers on his payroll this man has. What the f is he doing with that strip club? Carrying a school bag on stage. What are you doing with a school bag on stage? You can't even read. The f***ing fans can't fight for you. Shut your mouth. A 40-year-old man What? He was wearing high heels yesterday.
Despite this being a money play, Conor did take his training seriously, and he did show some impressive boxing prowess against a legend. But realistically, he had no chance in lasting 12 rounds in a different sport, and he was defeated via TKO in the 10th round. Conor never
legs and no
to
jiu-jitsu.
lose a fight. That's because he knew he just made history again, but this time he was set for life. This was the second highest selling pay-per-view in history with 4.3 million buys, generating over $600 million in revenue. The Nevada State Athletic Commission announced that Mayweather reportedly earned around $300 million in the fight, while McGregor earned around $100 million. And on top of that, Conor was announcing his next big business venture that would generate him even more money than the Floyd fight.
Introducing Proper Number 12 Irish Apple, a delicious blend of my award-winning tasty Proper Number 12 Irish whiskey.
After securing a lifelong fortune and reaching the pinnacle of MMA and boxing, many wondered what Conor would do next. Because if he returned to fight in the UFC, there was only one fight that made sense, and that man was Khabib Nurmagomedov, the undefeated lightweight contender who had a fight style that many felt was too much for Conor to handle. Khabib was the most dominant wrestler the UFC had ever seen. He mauls his opponents until they are exhausted, then goes in for the submission. Conor is a vicious striker whose weakness is in his ground game and cardio. The result predictions were simple. Either Khabib can't handle Conor's lethal strikes, or Conor can't escape Khabib's dominant wrestling. In the beginning of 2018, Conor was stripped of his other belt, the UFC lightweight title, due to inactivity. It had been 2 years since his last fight, and he was preventing guys like Khabib from getting a shot at the belt. Additionally, an unexpected personal rivalry formed between the two after Khabib pressed one of Conor's friends, Artem Lobov.
Damn, what happened to ears, bro?
Artem called Khabib a pussy for pulling out from fights a couple of times and said that a true champion fights no matter what, and that he would slap Khabib when he saw him. Khabib and his crew approached Artem, where Khabib slapped Artem multiple times and told him to keep his mouth shut. Conor retaliated on behalf of his friend in the most dangerous way possible, bringing 30 or 40 of his goons to attack a bus that Khabib was on as he was exiting the venue, and throwing a metal dolly through the window which injured a different
that's not good.
This bus was jam-packed with other fighters, press, UFC employees that were all caught in the middle of the chaos. Khabib was confused by Conor's antics. He had a very simple way of settling their differences.
I'm gonna come, just send me a message. Of course they know a lot of security here, media, it's gonna be big, you understand, they come with 30 people. Come here, send me a message, like location, I'm gonna come, whatever you want, doesn't matter, Ireland, New York, Brooklyn or Moscow, doesn't matter. Tell me, where?
A warrant was issued for McGregor's arrest, and he turned himself into the authorities later that day, with charges of criminal mischief being pressed. It ended with a mere slap on the wrist, a $50,000 fine, and the right to travel
Of course, he got money, I mean.
after bail. Dana White described McGregor's actions as the most disgusting thing in UFC's history. Dana, he's going to jail. Most disgusting thing ever happened in the UFC. Also, Dana, let's promo the shit out of this and book Conor Khabib ASAP with Conor's whiskey brand being the sponsor. Khabib was hungry for the fight against Conor. His management said, he doesn't like the guy, we don't like the guy, we don't like his team, and we don't like what he represents. Khabib was a different type of beast. He didn't care about the hype, he was not interested in talking or Conor's antics. He just wanted to fight.
We have to make him humble.
You know Conor's in New York right now, right? Like, what happens if you see each other in the street?
Fight.
Fight in the street?
Fight, of course.
Not for money, just to fight?
Well, of course, we're gonna fight.
Who wins the street fight, you or Conor?
No, I never always fight in the street.
No matter where it is, you're
How many times he tap? He's tap machine. You know, if we're gonna meet somewhere, we're gonna fight 100%.
Conor, on the other hand, was the most obnoxious we had ever seen him, which was likely due in part to the alcohol consumption.
It's shooting about his birthday. I'm not understanding. Here's a card of it.
Psychological games with Khabib, insulting his father, his country, his religion, desperately trying to get a rise out of Khabib.
I never want to take picture with someone, doesn't matter.
Or tried to make Khabib's direct, straightforward energy just made Conor look foolish.
For me, this is more than defend my title. You know, for me, it's personal. Honestly, for me, it's personal.
Damn, this boy's...
Despite Conor's antics, he was clearly the fan favorite, as thousands of boos rained from above anytime
Yeah, just to avoid copyright.
Spoke.
First of all, I want to say, Alhamdulillah, God give me everything. Alhamdulillah. I know you got this, you don't like this. Tomorrow night, I'm gonna smash your boy, guys. I'm gonna smash your boy.
The hype for this fight was unimaginable, and the UFC had predictions that this was going to be the highest selling pay-per-view of all time. When the two men stepped into the ring at UFC 229, there was no more time to talk. Conor did press forward in the beginning, but he came in flat-footed, anticipating Khabib's takedowns. He was absolutely mauled in the first 2 rounds, with Khabib nearly TKOing him. Conor was breathing heavy, exhausted, looking like he was regretting every bit of trash talk. Some argue he actually won the 3rd round, but it's only likely because Khabib was resting. At the end of round 3, Khabib said, "Let's talk now," and Conor replied, "It's only business," which Khabib interpreted as him waving a white flag, a sign of weakness, begging and pleading for his life. Ultimately, Khabib decided to finally finish this thing and submitted Conor via neck crank in the 4th round. He said he would make Conor tap, and that's exactly what he did. Then, all hell
he should retire after that, bro.
loose. Khabib jumped out of the cage after the bell and attacked Conor's team. Then Khabib's team jumped in the ring and sucker punched Conor. We knew this fight was personal, but we didn't know it would get this bad. Khabib was acting out of character, and his behavior was heavily demonized by the UFC.
Yeah, he dipped down low, huh?
Resulting in a $2 million fine. fine. Then again, Conor constantly did the same things, if not worse, but it was used as promotion. As Conor arrived back to the locker room, he burst into tears. He didn't just lose, he got absolutely demolished, and he made a fool of himself along the way.
Can you describe the emotions after a loss like that? You know, it stings real bad, but this is the fight business. I've been on the end of many defeats in my life, and I've rose back, so I'll not shy away from it, and I will not make excuses for it. I will assess it and come back.
I am going to make him humble. I am going to teach him respect. He stood by his words. Khabib, the true champ. This fight broke the UFC all-time pay-per-view record at 2.4 million buys, and it's hard to see anything topping those numbers anytime soon. If Conor won, he could have easily retired and be considered one of the greatest of all time, but he was only 30, and retiring at a loss could not be the end of his legacy, not the illustrious champ, larger-than-life hero
Is next and Dustin Poirier.
he crafted for himself. But how was he going to compete against other UFC lightweights? Khabib exposed his weaknesses. His cardio was substandard, making him unable to go hard into the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds. He was sleeping in silk pajamas and driving Maybachs. Other guys were hungry, begging for a shot. And on top of all of that, he was focused on developing proper 12, which took his free time away from the gym and into the bar. You can imagine all these destructive thoughts constantly racing through Conor's head while he tried to bury them with bottles of whiskey. Conor took to Twitter to announce he was retiring from MMA. Many were unsure if this was a negotiating tactic or a revelation from his devastating loss. But then, 24 hours later, it was revealed that McGregor came under investigation for sexual assault in Dublin. And although this didn't lead to an arrest, nor did many of his fans believe the allegations were true, this wouldn't be the last time he gets accused of this same deplorable behavior. McGregor was then caught on camera sucker punching an old man in a pub. The story behind the attack was never truly revealed, only assumptions were made by assessing the clip without audio, but there is no justification for a pro fighter to sucker punch anyone, let alone an old man. Conor also smacked a man's phone for filming him, then stomping on it until it crumbled to pieces. McGregor was arrested on charges of and criminal mischief. MMA fighters have spent decades trying to prove to the world that their sport is one of honor, class, and grace, and that all fighters are not simply street thugs. It's understandable to put on a character and act like a thug to sell a fight. It's another to actually be one in the streets towards people who are not a real threat. As if it couldn't get any worse, McGregor faced his 2nd sexual assault allegation relating to a complaint that a woman in her 20s in a vehicle parked outside a Dublin pub. Conor's team tried to express that it was nothing more than rumors, but these strings of controversies were starting to seriously impact his reputation. Seemingly in an effort to gain some positive press, he came out of retirement to fight Donald Cerrone. Donald was a journeyman, currently
he got absolutely destroyed
on a
by
2-fight loss
Conor.
streak at nearly 40 years old. Many saw it as an easy win for Conor to gain back the spotlight, and in the press conferences, he sported a demeanor that we hadn't seen in a long time.
You know, he's become a family man. Obviously, you've seen him compete so many times. It's hard not to respect Donald right now at this stage, and he has my respect. And although there will be blood spilled on January 18th, it will not be bad blood.
UFC 246 was another electrifying Conor McGregor fight, finishing Cerrone by TKO in just 40 seconds. Conor fans thought he was back, as the Irish Beast came out in the post-fight interview taunting anyone who dared to fight him, only for him to once again announce his retirement on Twitter. Oddly enough, if he did retire here, it could have been seen as a graceful exit, a nice comeback victory where he showed class throughout the whole process, but something would draw him back to the octagon.
But Cerrone is
Conor also
not that good of a
announced his
fighter.
engagement with his longtime partner Dee Devlin. She stood by his side through all the highs and lows, from rags to riches, and now they finally felt it was time to tie the knot. And just like the last time he made some surprising life updates, shortly after came accusations. Conor was arrested on suspicion of France. AFP Sports stated, McGregor was the subject of a hearing by the police, where he vigorously denies any accusations of misconduct. He has been interviewed and released. After an investigation conducted by French authorities, TMZ obtained a document from French prosecutors declaring that they didn't find enough evidence to move forward with a case against McGregor. Whether it be genuine false allegations or his own reckless behavior, he could not escape the negative publicity, and it almost started to look like the UFC acted as therapy or a PR campaign to restore his reputation. McGregor decided to once again enter the cage, this time against Dustin Poirier, and again he came in with a humble, respectful attitude.
After that loss, many years ago, we rose up, became champion. He's given so much back. I'm honoured to share this octagon with this man. I know we have this competitive fire, and it's still there. There's still that, you know, denying that. We have a clash, and it's going to be a good firework-filled bout. The respect is admirable for this man from me.
Don't want to make it seem like we're up here giving each other back massages, but I just want to clear the air. Connor's team, McGregor Sports Entertainment, did reach out to my foundation, the donation to the Pinfight Foundation, and we have huge plans for that. So Conor, man to man,
pleasure, brother, my pleasure. Thank you.
You're going to help a lot of people with that.
Those who didn't know what was going on behind the scenes just felt that Conor was being a gentleman. Others like to remind everyone that Khabib said he would humble him, but it was refreshing to see a more subdued and honest McGregor. Unfortunately, it didn't help his competitive edge. Dustin Poirier chipped away at Conor's front leg with brutal calf kicks. This hurt his stability, which left his face wide open.
And broke his leg or
Dustin
something.
let his heavy hands fly and became the first opponent to ever TKO Conor in the UFC. This challenged the idea that Conor is one of the best strikers ever in the game, as he just got outstruck. Despite Conor losing the fight, he definitely didn't lose his ability to draw pay-per-views. The Cerrone fight and the Poirier fight still land in UFC UFC's top 5 highest earning fights of all time, so they were still willing to do whatever was in Conor's best interest, and he wanted that rematch with Dustin Poirier, except this time, he was back to his old ways.
Boxing that opens up, cat. You're getting walked like a dog in an octagon on Saturday night. Your wife is your husband. Joe Lee's wife. Joe Lee's wife. You little activity. You used to be a lot better than that, man. A great focus on the opponent on the scales. What? Going kicks this time. Yeah, sure, I'm out, you little fool. I'm gonna dance on your head. It's coming for him on Saturday night. He knows it, and I know, and I'm gonna love doing it.
We knew humble Conor couldn't last long. The trash talk was entertaining, but he pushed things a little too far, bringing Poirier's wife into the banter. Fight fans were more than willing to put up with Conor's cocky attitude, but disrespecting people's families was just unnecessary, especially
Really, that's the line.
after what happened with Khabib. Plus, he was just being respectful to Dustin a few months ago. What changed? It came across as desperate, and it's these antics that drove away the respect that fight fans once had for Conor, with many of them actually rooting for Dustin to get the W. The rematch against Poirier started off amazing. In the first round, we got to see a mix of boxing, takedowns, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, submission attempts, ground and pound. This was shaking out to be one for the history books.
Yeah, I think I stopped watching after this one or
Conor's
something.
leg just snapped in half. Dustin Poirier won the fight due to doctor stoppage.
Oh.
Instead of exiting the fight humble, just like his first loss, Conor went on a pathetic, blabbering rant in his post-fight interview with Joe Rogan.
You was gonna show you through to close the distance. This is not over. If we have to take this, I'm sorry, but it's all I'm sorry. We don't give up. He said that he believes that one of the kicks that he checked is what broke your leg. There was no check. It was not one of them I checked. Your boys is in the DMs. Hey, baby. Hit me back on my check and let it off. When you have that party, then we know you too, baby.
Conor, your wife is in me DMs. Hey baby. Conor's wife. What the F? Disrespecting his own fiance while trashing another man's wife, then being carried out in a stretcher. A few years before, nobody would have predicted that this would be Conor
He easily loses.
McGregor's final moments in the octagon. Moreover, the message from Poirier's wife was revealed to be nothing more than a message request. She could have been thanking him for previously donating to their charity. All professional fighters have to face the ego-shattering decision to put down the gloves one day. It's clear Conor had multiple opportunities to call it quits, and even he wanted to, but he didn't. Now, Conor is a true warrior. Like many UFC fighters, they typically don't run from challenges, but he seems to exist in this destructive limbo where he wants to protect and strengthen his legacy as a fighter, but he also has nothing to prove because he is undoubtedly a legend in his own way. The more he steps in the cage, the more it becomes clear that he is declining from his peak, and he is only increasing his chances to get beat up. That is, unless he had some
Getting all, huh?
sort of magical substance that could make him bigger and stronger. After some time outside the octagon, fans began to notice Conor's size change, looking drastically different than his former self at different weight classes. Allegations of steroid use began to arise.
And you see the circling of acne. Like the guy has some acne that may have not been there before, and this bald spot coming in pretty hot, bro. These are all, telltale androgenic side effects that have, I guess not been apparent on him in the past.
Joe Rogan even suspected he was on gear by saying,
Maybe he's getting all that.
looks like his piss would melt that USADA cup. USADA is the organization responsible for overseeing the UFC's anti-doping program, conducting drug testing, and enforcing policies to ensure a fair and clean competition. According to the UFC's anti-doping website, Conor McGregor was not tested during the year of 2022, and Conor basically admitted to using substances in a tweet where he wrote, "Everything was fully disclosed before I began. The state of allowance for athletes to recover from injuries as horrific as the one I overcame must be assessed." Conor was using, but many fans didn't care because he was doing it for injury recovery and he was not fighting competitively. However, it was the other substances he used that seemed to take control over his life. Just take a look at this clip where he cannot finish a sentence, practically speaking gibberish, licking his lips constantly, and has to remove the drink because he admits he can't control himself.
I didn't have creative control of it, so I'm the creator. I'm the creator, right? So I wasn't necessarily happy. I know the story, I wouldn't change it, but I would add my magic. And
Is he cocked out?
my adding of the magic wasn't, kind of thrown away on when it was not supposed to be. I felt a bit led into it, to be honest. But I'm happy how it went. It is what it is. And onward he goes. And I've 4 of them now. 4 of them. We had an hour series. It was on RTE, the National Broadcast Series. Then with the 6-part series, and then with the movie, red carpet, cinemas, Netflix. Come here, swap this out. Swap this. I'm not that strong, lads. I'm a strong lad, but I'm going to train later on, so I want to hold it. I'm going to drink with Senator tomorrow.
Anyone give me a thumbs up? Yeah, okay, cool.
Give me a fresh one, man, just in case.
He's either had too many beers or too many nose beers, or both. Now, Conor has always been full of energy and excitement, so many of his defenders just believe he is a high testosterone alpha male full of life, whereas others analyze his frequent jaw movements, inability to sit still, twitching, scratching, and touching his nose all as signs of. And considering his brother-in-law is convicted of Graham the Wig Wella, the in Ireland, makes for a solid argument that Conor has the best plug for that booger sugar. Conor's love for the party life has gotten him in many questionable situations before. In the beginning of 2023, he faced his 3rd accusation of assault from a woman in
this one allegations, right?
Ibiza. According to the report, the woman said she knew McGregor because they were from the same neighborhood in Dublin and had been invited to his birthday party in Ibiza on July 16th. However, when the party moved from a club to McGregor's yacht, the woman alleged that the situation took a violent turn. The woman claimed McGregor began to verbally insult her appearance before he kicked her in the midsection and punched her. The woman told police that she then jumped from the yacht in an attempt to flee McGregor. She was picked up by a Red Cross boat and then taken back to shore. It was as if he was possessed. I knew that I had to get off the boat because I thought he was going to The situation sounded like something straight out of a horror movie, and it was followed up by his fourth investigation. On June 9th, 2023, Conor McGregor attended the Miami Heat basketball game when he was asked to do a boxing skit with the mascot, but Conor proceeded to absolutely level the man with a vicious left hand, nearly knocking him unconscious before he stood over top and delivered another devastating blow. The man in the suit was knocked out and taken to the hospital. That very same night, in the same venue, McGregor was accused. According to the alleged victim, McGregor on her in a VIP men's bathroom at KCS Center. She said that McGregor aggressively her before also attempting to force her into. She then took it one step further, pointing the finger at the Miami Heat and NBA security for aiding McGregor in the attack by separating her from her friend and forcing her into the bathroom. A video was released of the incident where it looks like Conor comes out, holds out his hand, and she grabs his hand as they consensually go into the bathroom surrounded by security. And they were also seen chatting with each other at a party. Conor vehemently denied the allegations. After a thorough investigation, including a review of videos and interviews with eyewitnesses, the authorities have concluded that there is no case to pursue against Conor McGregor. After successfully beating every case and allegation, many people believe that Conor is just a target of others looking for a payday. But there is one common denominator with all of these controversies: the party life. Conor has said it himself. If he's not busy, that would be destructive to his life.
I like to be kept busy. It keeps me in check. It keeps me in line. If I was not busy with everything at my disposal, that could potentially be dangerous. You know, that could be catastrophic.
Without fighting in the octagon, Conor keeps himself busy through his business ventures in Proper 12, Forged Irish Stout, McGregor Fast, the Mac Life Media Company, Title Sports Therapy, the list goes on. Unfortunately, his ventures rely on him to just sort of be the face of the company, be social, and be the champ, not necessarily worry about the day-to-day operations, which clearly leads him to late-night celebrations constantly. Conor has 4 children and a fiance. I don't think anyone is expecting him to be a stay-at-home dad, and I don't think anyone is blaming him for wanting to enjoy the fruits of his labor. He earned it, but it seriously seems to be taking a toll on him, which was evident during the promotion of his movie Roadhouse alongside Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake's a consummate professional, 75 movies made. You know, I'm blessed to have entered into the movie alongside him. He has 75 movies made. I have 75 bar fights made. And that's it.
Conor is literally involuntary spasming here / after come down. I've had this. He definitely just did a huge sesh of. Another video of him went viral for his tweaking and twitching.
What can you tell us about your acting debut? Obviously, it's your first experience.
Hard work, but you know, we got it done. It's in the bank for life. You know, we put something in the bank, maybe it's not going to be there for life. You might spend it. This baby is in there for
some sugar,
life, and I'm ecstatic
maybe.
about that.
And it seems like every other day we are seeing a new Conor video where he displays excessive energy, agitation, and having a short attention span.
Floyd, you little you're like you're doing bad conversations, trying to get a boxing match at 155. I grab him with a scruff of the chest and slap the little nose off him, yeah? Little ding-dong everything he is, yeah?
Joe Rogan explained what might be Conor's mindset perfectly.
So you've got consistent trauma to your dome over and over and over again, and then you get a little and you're feeling good again. I bet, you know, you get addicted to it. And the guy obviously likes extreme things, right? Which is why he's such a great fighter. They're wild people. That's why John Jones likes too. They're wild people.
Fighters are borderline insane. They crave the energetic, adrenaline-filled lifestyle of nearly dying inside of a cage. It's been well over 3 years since Conor last fought, and although he was kind of a maniac when he was preparing for his matches, he was a lot more composed than he is now. It seems like he is getting his fix that he used to get from fighting from his indulgent lifestyle, and it may have permanently destroyed his fighting career. His 2024 bout against Michael Chandler was delayed for a year before being officially announced with a card and a date, and then canceled due to Conor breaking his toe. This has led to theories that the UFC is locking him up in his contract, which requires him to fight 2 more matches, and refusing to let him complete them. But why? We already know
come on now.
He is a guaranteed big money draw, so it can't be that. The only logical explanation is that he has drifted too far down the slopes, that he is unfit or unwilling to stay disciplined and sober throughout an entire 6 to 8 month fight camp. Perhaps he wants to just go on and fight Logan Paul, like he announced on Twitter, or fight Manny Pacquiao, or do some other worthless exhibition that will bring in hundreds of millions of dollars and barely forces him to focus on a real
I feel like Logan Paul would destroy him.
Camp. Now, it would be a terrible business move for the UFC to just go and let him make money for someone else, which leaves him at a standstill, bend to the knee of Dana White, or never fight again and fill the adrenaline void with this destructive lifestyle. And as if all of this couldn't have gotten any worse, Conor McGregor was found guilty in civil court. According to the official record, the alleged assailants were Conor McGregor and his friend, James Lawrence. The alleged victim was Nikita Hand. The alleged place in December of 2018 after Conor's loss to Khabib. In 2019, Nikita Hand tried to pursue a criminal case against the 2 men, but prosecutors did not bring criminal charges against Conor McGregor. The reason was outlined to the jury during the case, claiming that a very high standard of proof would be needed, and things such as reliability and consistency of witnesses, the fact that Ms. Hand had no recollection of having drugs she consumed, and her demeanor in the CCTV footage were all factors that led to their decision. Now, criminal cases are kept private, therefore victims remain anonymous, and details of the investigation were not revealed. That changed when Ms. Hand decided to pursue Conor in civil court. The purpose of a civil claim is most often to seek monetary compensation for damages done. The trial was very public, with members of the press in each courtroom session, reporting the details to the people of Ireland. This trial was also during their election, to which Conor announced that he intended on running for office in Ireland, but people were way more invested in Conor's trial than the election, and it was a true he said she said debate. Ms. Hand and McGregor were a part of the same friend group, exchanging messages back and forth on Instagram prior to planning a meetup. McGregor was driven to her hair salon where she worked, where he picked her and Miss Keeley up after 10 a.m. McGregor also admitted during the case that he had cocaine in his car. Bottles of alcohol were ordered to the room shortly after midday, and McGregor's bank card was also used. They both admitted to taking cocaine that night. From there, Miss Hand accused Mr. McGregor of pinning her to a bed and 3 times. McGregor claimed they had that was consensual. Since their stories were polar opposite, it seems like the guilty verdict was made on the basis of forensic evidence. The jury has been provided with evidence that Miss Hand was brought by ambulance to the treatment unit of Rotunda Hospital around 9:30 a.m. the following day in a terrified state and with extensive bruises over her body. A general practitioner testified that internal in her neck was consistent with Miss Hand's account. There has also been evidence that was wedged so far inside Miss Hand that it had to be removed with a forceps at the hospital. Connor's defense brought Dr. Farnan as a witness, claiming that bruises would take 24 to 48 hours to come up, and that they also can appear in a slightly different position to the trauma, can change in size and shape, and can change in color. The doctor also claimed that women having sex with a tampon in is a very common event, or many women forget that they are wearing one. The jury consisted of 8 women and 4 men, who listened to a multi-day long testimony of Nikita recounting her horrific experience and Connor defending himself, ultimately finding him guilty, and the civil court awarding her damages of nearly 250,000 euros.
I want to show Freya and every other girl and boy that you can stand up for yourself if something happens to you, no matter who the person is, and justice will be served.
After the trial,
That's
Conor tweeted,
terrible.
Nikita Hand, vicious liar, appeal, and then went on to announce plans to appeal the outcome. Without accepting the guilty verdict, McGregor did concede to his infidelity, stating, "I should have never stepped out on the woman I love most in the world. That's all on me. I can't go back and I will move forward. I am beyond grateful to my family, friends, and supporters all over the world who have stayed by my side."
So
1 month
did he
before he
do
tweeted
it?
this, a video went viral of him grabbing a woman's hair to dance with her while his fiancée was standing directly next to him, using this as proof that he has gotten so used to the party life and cheating on the mother of his 4 children. And if you thought this was the final straw for Dee, you'd be mistaken. She is still standing by Connor's side. She did not agree with his guilty verdict and wrote in an Instagram story, "Imagine a woman with her own boyfriend and child texting photos of herself to another woman's man with a family and child on the way. I look forward to the day the world will see the footage of you on that night and the carry on of you. Not a bother on you having the time of your life. This is the real evidence. My sons will be warned women like you exist in the world." At one point, people felt bad for Dee, sticking by Connor's side while he ruthlessly cheats on her. Now many see her as an enabler and a victim blamer, sticking around for Connor's money since they are not married and she would not be entitled to half if they separated, as de facto partners are not entitled to much like they are in the USA. If history repeats itself, I'd imagine Conor is dying to get back in the UFC and take the spotlight away from his sexual assault case. Those who hate him make it known that they'd prefer he fade into oblivion. Those who love him question if he should return to fighting in fear that he will only further stain his crippled reputation. But even if he never fought again, we all agree that there is no way he will step away from the spotlight. So what will he do after he puts down the gloves? He has been taking the role as the promoter for Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, as he is an investor in the company. This seems like a natural fit for Conor. Taking on a Dana White-esque position would allow us to still get hilarious sound bites and bring some of that chaotic energy to the pre- and post-fight press conferences. But if Conor remains in the entertainment industry, there will be temptation all over. Late nights that lead and women. Is he capable of suppressing and overcoming his temptation? If not, and or worse, if he actually is this monster some people
Yeah, just become Dana White.
believe him to be
Easy.
and expect more allegations, more crimes, and eventually doing something that cannot be undone with money. There is no doubt that Conor McGregor holds a unique legacy in the UFC, one that cannot be taken away from him. But it's far from the one that we saw at his peak in 2016, all because he could not win the biggest
Yes, I
fight
would
of his
ending
life,
them.
the
You
fight
go
against
video.
himself.